We're adding me, taking out that. We're good. Teddy did a great job on my hair. I didn't put the stuff in there today, so we're a little bit live. Truly, truly live. Got my coffee going. Whoa, I got to tell you, great weekend, great summer. Dealt with challenges. Life got in the way a couple of times over. It just happens. Huge opportunities over the summer, and this weekend was like the culmination of so much of that. That's been great. My wife has been absolutely terrific in allowing me to go out and go out and do all these things. I like haven't been home on the weekends for well, in April and then again in August. And then there's always been some other things. And then during the week, there's always something that comes up someplace. And, whatever, and the rest of work and everything like that. There's things you actually get paid on. That kind of gets in the way. And then here we go. Here we go. We're now sitting here, and it is a October day, October 24th. October 24th. Is that amazing? How much this year has gone by. Now all of a sudden it's not third quarter planning and fourth quarter planning. It's like, oh my gosh, it's end of the year planning. What do we do? What is it that we should have done? Yeah, you got a few things on the to-do list over there. Let me put the comments up. Sorry, I didn't really hit that one. Chris, good afternoon to you, my friend. And share a couple of things. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this during the summer. Got some time and kind of plan it out. And I needed to interact with a whole bunch of people, not weekend folks. It's actually daytime stuff. Wanted to get that together. Still working on that. We'll make it happen. Going to make all of these things happen. And what's really been interesting, and I think especially this past weekend, and it's just that cumulative knowledge thing. And it's not book knowledge. No, no, no. I've never really been accused of the book knowledge thing. No, definitely not. But it is all those things I actually learned in, yeah, dare I say, elementary school, high school. Carrie, afternoon to you, Doug, and of course, Chris. Go back and you take a look at those things you did in elementary school you never really thought of. Maybe junior high, high school, went to college, some of those things. It's like, matter, didn't matter. What about those clubs you joined? What about those clubs are like, man, that's terrible. Those presentations you've attended, it's like, really, what was the purpose of that? Like an unbelievable story there. There's a gentleman that would be a household name to those with the gray hair, maybe 40 and over, definitely 50 and over. Household name kind of guy. Great story. I mean, really is just an absolutely great story, that he told, very inspirational, things like that. But then what do you do with that? And that's where I think that presentation was lacking. It was interesting. It was great, but it was just kind of lacking the what do I do with it side of it. Look, you can take a look at comedy too, or a movie that you go to. What's a good movie? What's a good comedy show? Well, good comedy show you go to, everybody laughs. You sit there, you laugh. You're at the show for an hour, 2 hours, however long it is, having a fun time. You go, hey, yeah, that comic was great. Really had a fun time. Takeaway on that. Had a fun time. Night out, enjoyable experience, all the rest of that stuff. That was great. Hey, maybe you take away a joke or two. Maybe. But what's the big takeaway there? Not a lot. Fun, but not a lot. That other speech, what was the big takeaway? Interesting, motivational in sense, but how does that apply to me? And that story would not have applied to most people. Most people. It had to do with a sports figure and being in the military. So it's not going to apply to most people. So you can't visualize yourself in those shoes. So it was not that. But all of those things, even though they were good. I definitely enjoyed all of those experiences. But then what was the takeaway? And it was funny. Now looking back on it, the takeaway was not something I learned then. And this is where the cumulative thing comes into. It became on another occasion. And that other occasion was listening to another speaker, professional speaker, actually a guy who used to be a comic, became a humorist. He gave a presentation, and there was something to do with it. You remember maybe many of the points and stuff like that. I can tell you, I remembered many of the points. I remembered a few of the stories. Absolutely love. And the reason why, it was visual. So that's one of the reasons why I remember it. Takeaway number one, when you tell people something visually, in other words, use nice descriptive words where they could see themselves in that situation. Maybe not doing what you did, but if they could see themselves in that situation, now all of a sudden that speech that they're giving, or even that comedy routine that they're doing, you now are a part of it, not listening to it, but you are now a part of it. And then if you get comic or speaker, could more the speaker, a comic really is just more on the entertainment side, but that speaker then gave you something to do with that information. In other words, how do you get up in the morning? What do you do when you wake up? There was a Navy gentleman, Navy officer, they gave a whole big speech about why it is so important to make your bed in the morning. Now, could we all see ourselves in the military? Probably not. Not all of us. Many, yes, and thank you for serving those that do. But getting out of bed in the morning, I venture to say, a vast majority can see ourselves doing that. Making the bed in the morning, I could see a vast majority of ourselves, well, at least relating to that, one respect or another. But it became a visual story, so much more impactful. And the whole idea behind his message was the fact that you need to start your day off doing something and accomplishing something and being proud of what you accomplished. You don't have to make your bed they would in the military, but you do need to make your bed in the morning. What happens? You get up, you get out of bed, turn around, make the bed. You now did check number one. You've accomplished something. That's a nice way to start the day, is it not? You can go into your positive affirmations, your exercise, whatever your routine is, but at least doing that. And this story, though, was the fact that we could see ourselves in that story and coming out. And it was that and the humorist, when he gave his presentation about how attitude is everything. It was when he was talking, I was seeing some of those situations that are just reality for all of us. And it's like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that situation? Well, there's humor in everything, really. Every once in a while there is. So, maybe that didn't hit home the first time, but you know what? When there was another story told where it actually matched up. I actually told a story about his brother where it matched up. For me, maybe it wouldn't for you. But maybe you see something else, one of these silly videos on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, where you see somebody falling, getting up and going, yeah, I fell. And it's like, that's kind of funny. Or it's, oh, I fell. Oh my God, don't look at me. I'm embarrassed. So, that attitude thing, is certainly there. Now, where does that cumulative effect matter? Well, it matters because if you want to be an effective speaker, you want to bring your audience into that speech. So speaking visually really, really is helpful. If you are announcing something, that was the big thing this weekend. Saturday was one thing. Sunday's event, totally different events. But it's the same thing, that cumulative effect helped me in being effective, hopefully, at least from my perspective, at least, on both sides of it. If you're announcing some sport, you want to bring the audience into that sport as much as you possibly can. The other event I did, that was for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I was giving I was the MC for that one. So I had the microphone, I was addressing the audience, and there was a few stories I told that were, one of them was my story, but the others, were certainly not, but those stories were, that script I read was well done because it brought the audience in. The audience was able to see themselves in many different points on that. And it was one of those, we're all different. We all have unique stories, which is the case. I don't care what it is you're doing. You have your story. You don't have my story. You don't have your neighbor's story. You don't have anybody else's story. But nobody is alone at all, no matter what it is. And there's always help, there's always support, there's always somebody wanting to assist you in your quest to become better. And more times than not, they're willing to assist you if you have a good attitude about it. And then you kind of go from there. No, I'm not saying every day should be a great day. Every day is not a great day. You got those challenges, but it is there. So the cumulative effect, for me, it's helped out in many situations where I wasn't really thinking about it until that moment, but it helps. The situation on Sunday is I was reading a script. Yeah, I can actually read a script. It's different. It's different. I'm not a good script reader per se. I'd much rather ad lib, but so be it. But I read the script, and then I saw when I was doing that. Of course, it was when I was doing it. I didn't think of it in advance. On some other prior occasion, in that occasion, gentleman was reading. What was reading? The gentleman was writing out a script for a wedding. He was the dad. Daughter was getting married, and he was going to be giving the speech for it. Rightfully so, absolutely. So I asked me, he's like, how do I go about doing this thing? I was tell the stories, make everybody involved, and more little stories you could tell, the better it is because the more people will see themselves in that story. All well and good. But it was actually he had it written, and he wanted to do it where it was written out on a piece of paper. I gave him a few suggestions with that. One of them would be in a place that you really want to emphasize the word, put it in bold letters or highlight it. This way it just clicks in your mind that that's a strong word I want to say now. And then hesitate or pause. Give the audience a chance to let it sink in. So when I was doing that on stage, of course, it would have been nice if I thought about it in advance because the script was written out for me about where to pause or which words to emphasize. I was like, not that. But then afterwards, I was given the opportunity to give some feedback, on it. So in the future, that's it. So cumulative effect. Now I know that you have many of them, Doug included over here. And what is it? You don't think your wheelchair would fit in the tank? There's always something. There's always a way to figure out something someplace. Which probably bring me probably more to the event that's on Wednesday. It's a machinery company. If there's a will, there is some way in order to make that whole thing work. But in your own life, how many times do you go back on, I did something like that before? And then all of a sudden that something helps you going forward. Even if something breaks, all right? If something breaks, you want to help somebody out, you got some background knowledge on it. It may not be exactly that story, but it's those kinds of things that help you become better at fixing something or giving a speech or anything like that. In the business sense of the word, it's fantastic, right? Because when you have a customer coming in, or maybe more important, a prospect coming in to go see you, or you're at a networking event, you're at a business event, you're at a trade show, you're just at a picnic someplace, you're just someplace where you're just chatting with people you've never met before. And they start talking. Now, you might have something in your past, your knowledge, that cumulative effect, to not only help you show off your expertise in doing that, but more important than that, it'll show that you've had some similar situation, or you could see things from that prior situation, but apply that thought process, apply that situation with the person that you are now meeting, perhaps for the very first time, and perhaps not even meeting for the purpose of what you were at the event for. That's unbelievable, and it's very realistic. And I can tell you many, many times, and we joke about this so much in Toastmasters. A couple of folks like to bust my chops on the whole thing there. It's these conversations you have. We're just not expecting to have that conversation. Inside the Toastmaster, and this is when we were meeting together, right? We have face-to-face meetings. We would meet, we'd have a meeting, we do the whole thing, we give feedback, all well and good, all expected, great, you know, just like going to a business meeting. Same thing. Everybody gets there, you get your coffee, you get your tea, you get your soda, water, whatever it is. You sit down at the table, you do the meeting, all well and good. Everybody says hi, hi. Then they say so long, see you. Always great meeting you. It was fantastic. And then you walk out into the parking lot. That's what was happening with the Toastmaster meeting. We would do that. We go through the whole meeting. We do everything that was expected to see happen. And then we'd see each other in the parking lot. We're all parked in the same spot, kind of walking out. You know what happens? It's called common ground. Common ground. Because now all of a sudden we were meeting someplace that was nobody had authority over anything. Side of Toastmasters is very little authority to begin with, but it was now an informal conversation. At a business meeting, a networking event, it now becomes the informal conversation. And we even did something where we were creating that informal conversation. And there's a gentleman that actually started, I don't even know if I really want to call it a networking group. We'll have him on over here. But he created a group, we'll call it a networking group, that's really based upon those, we'll call it parking lot conversations. So the group that we got started was called Networking for Success. Right? If you meet somebody in a common space, all of a sudden your conversations are going to be much more freer because you're not there to talk about the business. You're not there to talk about setting goals. You're not there to talk about a specific sport. You're not there to talk about whatever the topic was that got everybody together. You then now have a much more open conversation. What we did with the walking is that we met at Sunken Meadow Beach, and for those that are not in and around here, and you could roll on that one too. It was a boardwalk. We stayed on the boardwalk. Boardwalk is, I think it was a mile in length, one end to the other, and we would go back and forth. So regardless of how fast one walked or didn't walk fast, or if somebody wanted to sit down, there was benches. It was a snack bar. It was bathrooms. You could do and go as quick as you like, slow as you like. But the thing was, it was in a common space. There was no office, there was no nothing, no plaques or whatever on the wall, none of that kind of stuff. So you had a free conversation. And then when people brought stuff up that you just didn't know, what do you do for fun? What's your hobbies, family like, what nonprofits you involved with? All those kind of conversations, which generally never come up at a formal business event. Look, I got people I work with during the day that I have no clue in the world as to what they do on the weekend. I don't even know if I would ask. In fact, I haven't asked, but is it really even my business to ask that question? Not so much. Not so much. And the last time we got together for a formal meeting, it was like, I wasn't going to ask that question. No way. But when you meet people in a common ground, it just becomes a little bit different. I met for a cocktail hour. The conversation was technically was much more open. Turned out with that group, it wasn't. It was all just business. But when we were meeting at the boardwalk, it was not business at all. So you get to learn different things about different people. And that's where that cumulative thing comes in again, because you can relate to people in different ways. And maybe you find that stuff that you've done in the past, hey, I forgot I actually did that. Maybe that gets you more motivated again. So not only is it a benefit to you when you have an event coming up, when you've got your quote unquote microphone, or afterwards when you're looking to give feedback with whatever had happened. Now you're sharing your technical expertise. That's a part of it. But the more important thing is the connection with other people. Because you find those common grounds because of stuff that you've done in the past. Here's the most amazing thing that happens is that now you find that you've got other interests that are really supportive, that common ground. And not only that, you really get a chance to help people out with your different areas of expertise, because that's what makes the whole thing work. Any business, I've used restaurants as the example, and go back and using that again too. You've got the kitchen staff, and the operational side of it, and then you got the front end, which is all about the maitre d', the hostess, seating people, making sure everything's good, clean, making sure the decorations, the setting is good, making sure the parking lot is clean. You ever pull up to a restaurant and you're sitting on the outside and the parking lot's dirty? It's like they're not paying attention to the parking lot. One of the most visual things, that there is. It's like, what's going on inside when it really has to be clean? Somebody's paying attention to that. So we all have different areas of expertise. And man, I saw that throughout the entire summer. There's so many people with different areas of expertise that made the whole thing kind of work. And that's really important. Yesterday at the Crohn's Walk, it was the same thing. There are different people focused on different things. You had a team that was doing the fundraising, team that was doing the setup of the event, teams that were set to work with the guests, the walkers that were attending. All that. So many people, different areas of expertise to make the thing work. But always rely on and know what you've done in the past, and always kind of bring that to the table where appropriate, because that's going to help you connect with other people in ways that are not just business or not just that one specific event. You wind up building all kinds of friendships from it. That's great. You also wind up building teams when you're a little closer together and you got a little bit more of a common interest and a common goal, or a symbiotic goal, like probably a better way of phrasing that. Now what you're doing is you're building a team. You may not have that need for that team right now, but should something come up again in the future, you can rely on that in the past, and you say, give that person a call. Hey, you remember we spoke last year, 2 years ago? Spoke about whatever organization, whatever situation was, and they recall because it meant something to them. Again, you had that common connection. They'll remember that. They'll remember that much more than they'll remember you handing them a business card because you've included them in the conversation. Just like a speaker with an audience, you want to include everybody. Same thing holds true. One-on-one conversations doesn't make a difference. If you're speaking to 1 or 100. It doesn't matter. Still want to include everybody in that, and they'll remember it. And they will remember it. And you're going to wind up building this team. You're going to wind up building this team that could go on and accomplish anything, absolutely anything. That's really what the world needs right now. It needs groups of people to go out with a common interest, different area of expertise. Kind of like that whole thing is that we're all unique. We're all unique. We all have our own stories, but we're all connected going forward, which is very much the theme yesterday. That was with a chronic illness, but it holds true with so many other things. You're working for a company, right? Are you all connected? Yeah, absolutely. If you're working for a company, you're getting paid a salary. Do you care about the success of the company? Of course you do. You can enjoy every profit that goes along? Probably not. Maybe, who knows? Depends on the company. But you want to see that company succeed and grow. You're all connected. You got different stories, different benefits from it. Some benefit more than others, granted, but you're still connected with the whole thing. Find that group. Keep working on the group and keep going that cumulative effect. All right, I want to spend a moment or two here talking about Wednesday. I tell you, and this has been part of the whole fascination with the summer and getting involved with the folks out east, with the drag racing and things like that. Boy, I thought it was just about cars. No, not at all. I thought it was just about the auto industry. No, not at all about it. I thought it was one thing that had nothing to do with many other things. I just thought, hey, you know what? Let me go out there, do this. It was good. It was fun. Get a little bit more microphone experience. Great. No, so much more. And this is where it really pays. If you remember nothing else from it today, it just really pays to go out and do different things and see things from somebody else's perspective, because you're going to wind up seeing how things that you've been working on in the past kind of connect the whole thing together. And the more it connects, the more you're going to be excited about it, the more effort you're going to put into it, the more you're going to work through those challenges that come up, and the more you're going to have a stronger team going along with you. That really gets to be incredible. So here's what's going on. So definitely got to thank a whole bunch of people for experiences this year that I never did, that PR media thing. But Allendale Machinery, which actually is a part of Haas Formula One, Stewart Haas, drag racing, Formula One, NASCAR, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Unbelievable. They have a facility over here in Bohemia. They have an open house day for their customers tomorrow, Tuesday. I'm sure for prospects too, but whatever. And then Wednesday, that's the more important day for us, is Education Day. They want to work with the educational system around us. And there's a panel discussion going on. John Lombardo and many other folks from Workforce Development, Suffolk Community College, going to be on that panel, including Ron Loveland from the manufacturer's side of it. Yeah, the HIA, the Hot Park Industrial Association. Are you beginning to see the connections here with all of this? So the manufacturing groups on Long Island, the companies on Long Island are looking for employees. Suffolk Community College is doing this panel discussion with a machinery company that makes machines, and I'll tell you more about it afterwards to get a better understanding of the whole thing. But they're also looking to work with the students, scholarships, perhaps. And the machine shop, the Workforce Development Center that's over at Suffolk Community College, they've got equipment in there that's made by Haas Allendale. And the fact that I've been talking about that racetrack thing being a catalyst for the automotive industry, which I've now learned is the STEM industry, which means that pieces of things need to be made. People, students have to know math, have to know technology, machinery, all the rest of that stuff. Not just to make fenders on a car, but to make products that make products for the aerospace industry, automobile industry, construction industry. That's the machinery. That's the whole manufacturing industry. It's all tied in together. And it's great stuff. So now, you talk about speaking at a high school, about careers that are viable careers, not only viable careers, I'm talking about careers that if the students can gain the experience inside of high schools in vocational programs, maybe go to college, Suffolk Community College, or maybe another, and learn skills, technical, transferable skills into these other industries. And I've asked, the answer is yes. And get certifications that they need to get at a college level, Suffolk Community College. Now, you can't do it in high school level, to college. And then they're employed, and not employed for jobs, and employed for careers, really good careers. And then whatever continuous learning needs to take place, it continues to take place. That's great. What's the catalyst for it? You tell me. Because it could be any one of a million and one different things. Plastics to composites. Peter Crouch on his program, he had Mike Tedisco on. Mike, his part of ECNY Foundation, he works with internship programs, coordinating the whole thing now. So Peter Crash was talking about all the different kinds of composites, plastics that are in the outside of a car, and the metals, the harder metals, the softer metals, sheet metal, steel, that are in the inside of a car. We haven't even spoken about electronics, computer systems, the AutoCAD, the engine, all the rest of that stuff. What's the future all about? Don't ask me. Go ask a 10-year-old. They're going to have a much better grasp of the future as they continue to move forward to junior high, high school. It all ties together. It all accumulates, and it all grows. And I'm excited to be a part of that. I do hope you're a part of that whole team too. Think about it from your own place. You've got tons of experience in tons of different places. Don't think it doesn't mean anything. Everything does. Even something as silly as getting on a comedy stage, it's had an impact for me on doing different things. Everything does. Don't discount anything you do. It all matters. It all certainly matters. All right, tomorrow going to be exciting. Wednesday's going to be exciting. I'll probably be out. We'll play a recording of this whole thing. That's for that. We'll get guests. Oh, so many different things. Remember, what you do matters. Everything you do matters. It has an impact. Even if you do something you hate it, you know something that might have the biggest impact because you know that's not the direction you should go, or you know that the way somebody did something is not the way you're going to do it, and then you'll focus on the way that you should do it. And as you do it, you know what you're going to do? Of course, you know. You're going to speak well, you're going to speak often, and you're going to live inspired. And other people will do exactly the same because you are a leader. Don't ever forget that. Have a great day, my friends.